I've got with me today an adjustable wrench, and it's named that because amazingly, it's adjustable. I can change the depth of this gap right here, which is a good thing because let's say if I have a bolt like this, which happens to be a 17 millimeter bolt, then if I don't have a 17 millimeter wrench handy, I can get the adjustable wrench and I can change it and make it fit that right size. And that's good and bad because, well, I can use one wrench to fit many different sizes of bolts or nuts. But it's not good because there's always a little bit of play here. It's not as solid as the regular wrench that's made for that bolt. And because of that, my dad used to call adjustable wrenches knuckle busters. Because let's say that this bolt is on something like a car engine and it's stuck really tight. Maybe it's been there for years and there's gotten some corrosion on those threads, and it is really hard to get out. And so I put the adjustable wrench on it and I start pulling and pulling and pulling. And because this is not solid, it can actually open up just a little bit. And as sometimes happens with adjustable wrenches, it will actually create damage on this bolt head so that these sharp edges where it should be that gives it the strength will actually round off. And when that happens and I'm pulling hard, guess what happens to the hand? The hand hits whatever is behind. That's why my dad called them knuckle busters, because more than once it has come off very hard when I'm pulling hard and the hand's got to go somewhere and it hits other things and creates damage to me, not just to the bolt. But the point is, it is better to use the right tool for the right job. So this is a 17 millimeter wrench and it fits just perfectly. And since this part here is solid, there's not going to be any give to it. It's not going to open up and create damage to this. Not as likely for it to come off and me to hit my hand on something else. And even if I use the boxed end, it's still the right fit for the right bolt. And I wanted to use that illustration today because many times as people look at Bible verses, they use them in the wrong ways. And typically because they're taking them out of context. It is very easy to take a Bible verse and pull it out without looking at its greater context, either in that passage of the Bible or the greater Bible as a whole, and to make that verse say something that it really was not intended to say. This week's Bible memory verse is one that is quite often used in that wrong way, that people take it out of the context and they make it say something that God did not intend. And the verse is this, it's Psalm 37:4 that says, "Delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart." And that idea to give you the desires of your heart sounds really good. And that's what people like to focus on because wouldn't it be nice to just say, God, I want this, and God gives it. And that's pretty much how a lot of people use that verse. But see, that's not the intent behind the verse. It's not to say that God doesn't give us the things that become the desires of our heart. But notice, you need to notice the sequence of the things that this verse is saying. Because it says first, before that God will give us the desires of our heart, it says, delight yourself in the Lord. Now, that idea of delight yourself in the Lord really means just to love God first and most. And that too is something quite often misused and understood greatly in our world. Because love needs to be more than just an emotion. With the idea of love, basing our love on emotions, it's something that we can't help, something we can't control, so that we can fall in love and we can just as easily fall out of love. And the idea behind God's true love is that it somewhere in there needs to be a decision of my will, a decision of my mind and my desires, that what I want first and foremost is to simply obey God, love God, and follow him to the absolute best that I can do. That's what that means, to delight yourself in the Lord. And that is a challenge because it means I need to begin changing my thinking and my desires. But not only is it that I begin changing my desires, but as God works in me and as I make Him the great priority of my life, that I follow Him, I obey Him, I take the Bible, I learn from it, I use that to teach truth and to learn what is the right and wrong in life, what is best, what is not good. All of those things are in the Bible. And as I learn those things and those things become part of my daily life, my thinking, my attitudes begin to change. And it's not a trick. It's not where God says, well, I'll just give you what you want only if you do it my way. The point is, God's way is always the best way. And so if I love God truly, if I'm delighting in God and doing everything I can to learn from the Bible, to follow Him, as that begins to become the pattern of my life, God begins transforming me from the inside out. He literally changes our attitudes. He changes our thought patterns so that the desires of my heart, the things I want, are becoming more and more and more the things God wants me to have. And it is the very idea of a good parent. Good parents don't give their children everything they want because a lot of the things a child wants are not good for that child. And God does the same for us. And so He is teaching us that if I am willing to obey Him and love Him deeply and consistently day by day, He will begin changing me so that I genuinely want the things He wants. And that is a process, and it's something that we have to work on. But God will do it. And I can guarantee one thing: when I delight myself in God, and He begins giving me the things that are now the desires that are His desires, those desires become my desires. My life, and here's a guarantee, my life becomes a better, more fulfilling, more meaningful life because I am learning to live it the way God wants me to live it. I hope that's encouraging to you today and that it really will be something to guide you in your life this week. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you'll join me again next week.